The different forms of trauma. Presented by the Ward and Wellness Services. In association with CJ Ward Creations. Avoidance. Avoidance symptoms can begin with a desire to avoid thinking or talking about the experience or anything related to it. Because these reminders irritate children, they may wish to avoid individuals, places, or activities. Additionally, youngsters may develop new fears or concerns. Of course, following an accident, it's natural sense to be more cautious. Children may become more conscious of safety issues, such as remembering to buckle up, not dashing into the street after a ball, or avoiding unfamiliar dogs. Extreme avoidance or fears, on the other hand, can become a serious issue. Avoidance can disrupt daily living and prevent a child from resuming activities that she previously enjoyed. Hyperarousal. The fight or flight response, a common and typical response to danger, also triggers hyperarousal. Even if the child is safe after an injury or accident, the fight or flight response may persist. A youngster may have the fear that something awful will happen again at any time after experiencing a frightening circumstance such as getting harmed. Or he may jump at any loud noise. Hyperbodily arousal symptoms, example, racing heart, can be frightening in and of itself. Physical abuse. One of the most common forms of child maltreatment is physical abuse. Physical abuse is defined as when a parent or caregiver causes physical injury to a child or adolescent, such as red marks, cuts, welts, bruises, muscle sprains, or fractured bones, even if the injury was unintentional. Effects. Physical abuse has far-reaching consequences for a child's life. It's more terrible when a parent, who a youngster looks to for protection and safety, turns out to be a threat. Traumatic stress reactions can occur in some children. Friendships can be difficult to form and sustain for children who have been physically abused. They have little faith in authoritative figures. They don't think they're worthy or feel good about themselves. They may blame themselves for the abuse and believe they have to hide what is going on in their homes. Reactions vary based on the child's age, the type of abuse, and how long the abuse has been going on. Many children who have been physically abused grow up to be aggressive or have other behavioral issues. Aggression and acting out are widespread, but there are many different responses. Some children don't react at all, if at all. They don't appear to mind if they're hit any longer. They've lost the natural fight or flight responses that protect us from harm. Other threats may also go unnoticed by these children. They may give up on making friends, succeeding in school, or making plans for the future. Instead of becoming numb and withdrawn, some abused children feel nervous and terrified. When the abuse has no expected pattern, this happens frequently. A youngster with little control has no idea when a caregiver may become physically violent, or how far the caregiver will go. It's possible that the child will become more worried. Punishment does not always have to result in physical harm in order to create psychological harm. Several studies have found that children who are subjected to physical threats and aggressive behaviors by a caregiver are more likely to develop post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and other psychological issues like aggressive behavior, sadness, and anxiety. Medical trauma. Pain, damage, major disease, medical procedures, and intrusive or unpleasant treatment experiences can all trigger pediatric medical traumatic stress, which is a complex of psychological and physiological responses in children and their families. Medical trauma can result from a single or a series of medical events. Effects. Children's reactions to medical trauma are frequently more influenced by their subjective perceptions of the incident than by its real severity. The degree of reactions varies, and they can be adaptive or disruptive to one's ability to operate. The vast majority of pediatric patients and their families are strong and resilient. Following a life-threatening illness, injury, or unpleasant medical procedure, many unwell or injured children and their families, up to 80%, endure traumatic stress reactions. Persistent traumatic stress reactions impact 20 to 30% of parents and 15 to 25% of children and siblings, impairing everyday functioning and affecting treatment adherence and recovery. Traumatic stress reactions can impair day-to-day functioning. Affect adherence to medical therapy. Obstruct optimal recovery if they persist. Traumatic stress reactions can be divided into three categories: re-experiencing. Re-experiencing occurs when a child continues to think about a traumatic event even though he does not want to. Some re-experiencing is perfectly normal and healthy. Part of how we help ourselves heal from a frightening experience is to think a lot about what happened, especially at first. Re-experiencing too much can be highly distressing. A youngster may experience nightmares or flashbacks that make her feel as if she is reliving the trauma. When something, a sight, a sound, or a smell, reminds her of what happened, she may get extremely distressed or perhaps experience physical symptoms.